Okay, we are live, and um, let me know when you get here. I am Billy. I'm the Vice President of Green Juju. I'm the Vice President of Nutrition and Communication for Green Juju. We are a whole food supplement company. And you notice I have a baby here because sometimes when you're a dad, you have to improvise and have the baby on for the first few minutes of the old live stream here. So let me get this all set up. Ah, there we go. I can see Kaylee. Hi, Kaylee. I'd like to see you. I'd like to be in Missouri and hang out with your whole crew. So let's just talk. Let's just introduce Maple while we're here because she's here. So there is Maple. She is the cutest baby in the world, in my opinion. So we're here today to talk about salmon, which is going to be very exciting because I love to break down individual ingredients. And we'll see how long she actually puts up with this carrot as well. So please tell me in the comments. Hi to Ariane. I want to get that right as well. We're also going to talk about some of the events that are coming up that I'll be at that hopefully some of you guys are at as well. Hi to Janet. Yes, there's Maple. So thank you guys again for coming. And she's obviously a foodie because check out her carrot. So, and the good news is Mom just got home. So as you can see by her face, so we could start to get into salmon. Come on. So here you go. So everybody said goodbye to Maple and hello to just me. Although it got a lot less cute on here, I will say that. So hi to Linda and Jerry. Thank you guys so much for coming. So as I mentioned, hi to Julia from Vermont. Thank you guys for coming. Again, my name is Billy Hoekman. I am the Vice President of Nutrition and Communication for Green Juju, and we are so happy to be transparent and to come on and answer questions because I know for everything I use in my life, be it food for my family, which includes my dog, I want transparency and to be able to ask questions. So that's why we're here. But I thought it would be cool to be able to go over some of the ingredients that we use. If you guys ever have an idea for a topic, hi to Ann from Wisconsin. If you guys ever have an idea for a topic you'd like covered on any of these live videos, feel free to email us at info@answerspetfood.com, and me and Kelly would be happy to look those over. So let's talk a little bit about salmon because we have an amazing treat line which is color-based. So outside of our bison trainers, which is just liver, we have a treat line that covers basically that pairs organ meat or foods that function like organ meat, which is something we're going to talk about in just a second in terms of the salmon with a specific antioxidant color. One of the things I'm going to talk about in salmon is it's got its own cool antioxidant color as well. So that's going to be pretty exciting. So, we have our beef red, our bison green, our duck orange, and also our salmon blue. So each one of those is paired with, different whole food antioxidants within a color range from plants. So every one of those colors and smells and all these things, and when plants grow, the energy itself, is antioxidants, it's vitamins and minerals, which is very exciting, for us because that's what we're in the business of. So our salmon treats are actually 85% salmon. So these were really born out of, being an homage to where we're from originally, which is the Pacific Northwest. So our company is a Seattle-based company. I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but the company is based in Seattle. A reminder as well that the company is just me and Kelly Marion, the owner and founder. The brains behind Green Juju, so she's the smart one. Well, Janet, I figure I can make that mistake once. So feel free to send us an email at info@greenjuju.com. So going back to, I just proved Kelly's the brains of the operation here. So first of all, I don't know if this is going to be relevant to anyone when it comes to salmon and questions, but I kind of wanted to cover everything. So some people would like to know what specific species of salmon our treats come from. That is sockeye salmon. Um, so the first thing that I want to talk about is omega-3 fatty acids. So salmon is really interesting. So obviously when you're looking at omega-3 fatty acids, you're looking for most of the time like oil, what they call oily fish. So some people, you're talking about sardines and anchovies. Salmon is another really interesting one because of its omega profile just generally. So all of those are going to have differing amounts of EPA and DHA. So ALA is going to be in other things so we're not really going to cover that. There's going to be probably some residual amount because there's a lot more omega fatty acids than omega-3, in 3 and 6, I think, which is what we really focus on. But, when it comes to that, so the interesting thing about this is they're going to have varying amounts of EPA and DHA, both of which are, incredibly useful, in terms of EPA, in terms of reducing inflammation, in terms of DHA, in not only developing a brain, in be it a human kid like, my kid or a puppy or something like that, but, contributes to brain and cellular health as well. And, all of those things. So it's important to get those things. I don't know if anyone knows truly, the exact ratio of those things, because I think that probably comes down to your dog specifically or your cat specifically. But the really cool thing is salmon typically is wild-caught salmon is going to have a 50-50 ratio of EPA to DHA. So both of those things are going to have different, some of the uses in the body actually overlap, but they're going to have different uses. And so I think it's cool because in terms of that, your body can sort of decide what it needs more of at any given time. So we really like that. All of and salmon is one of the higher omega-3 fatty acid fish out there. So this is also, when you're talking about fats, this is something that's going to contribute to the overall omega-3 ratio in your dog or cat's diet, which is very important, which is something, in case there's any of you who will be at the upcoming Healthy Dog Expo in Albany this upcoming weekend. That's something I'll be talking about a little bit because it is one of the subjects that's near and dear to my heart. So let me know in the comments if you are going to be there, because it would be cool to hang out and whatnot. And so these treats can definitely help, because everything you put into your animal's body, be it really plant or animal, but especially animals, is going to have both omega-3s and 6s in it. And so, this is going to contribute to a diet that has less inflammation, which is going to be higher in omega-3s. So that is very, very important. And remember, treats matter. So if you're doing treats, they make a significant difference in the diet itself. And the other thing to think about too is that when it comes to vitamins and minerals, you're talking about a full vitamin. Animal foods, and especially organ meats and or fish like salmon. My dog is currently trying to eat this plant behind me, so he's trying to get his greens in right now. So so it's important to note that both organ meat, which is what we use, in all of our other treats as well, with a higher liver content, is going to have a full vitamin and mineral profile. So obviously you're talking about water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C, like the B vitamins, and in that category. But you're also talking about small to large amounts of vitamins like vitamin E, and especially vitamins A and D. So salmon is going to be rich in actual vitamin A, which is retinol vitamin A, which is not beta carotene. So if a mistake people that's I think commonly made in human and animal nutrition is that plant foods are high in vitamin A. Plant foods are high in beta carotene, which is a form of vitamin A. It's a precursor to vitamin A. So retinol vitamin A, which is the real vitamin A that is easily accessible by the body, and also vitamin D. So vitamin D is a big one for me. I think most animals are vitamin D deficient. So again, if you're using these treats to, let's say train a puppy like I am currently, um, let me know if you want to see Huckleberry. He is sitting right there. So I did have Maple on, so I feel like I'm leaving Huckleberry out of this thing. So if you want to see him, let me know. But vitamin D is, there's a lot more research going on in both human and animal nutrition in terms of the role it plays in not only your immune system, but general health and cellular health. So this is going to be high in those very, very important vitamins. Also, going to have a full mineral profile. But what I mean by a full mineral profile is it's going to have a baseline of most minerals. So what I look for in a diet, especially in contributing foods and not the actual main diet, is small amounts of many, many things. And so that's what you're going to get here. But you are going to get a good amount of iodine, much like other seafoods as well, which can be something missing, especially from homemade diets. So that's another good one to think about when you're thinking about adding our salmon blue treats. So the last thing before I talk about a little bit about the ingredient panel here is I want to talk about astaxanthin, which is really cool because if you think about it, we're doing it's called salmon blue because we're going in this like blue, dark blue, kind of purple range of antioxidants. But animal products also have obviously colored antioxidants as well. So if you look at, an egg yolk, those are keratins, in the yolk itself. So astaxanthin is a very interesting carotenoid, which is a color substance in nature. So it comes really from an algae, and it's what actually gives salmon its pink color. And one thing to reference here, which I think is really interesting, is there was a study done with beagles, because that's how they do studies for human medicine first, whether, regardless of, I guess, the ethics of that. What they found was that with beagles that were dealing with arthritis, they would find full turnarounds or reduced pain in arthritis by giving certain amounts of astaxanthin. So, this is a highly anti-inflammatory plant or color substance, and basically it works, similar to something like vitamin C or vitamin E, but it's actually more potent. So this is a really cool thing. So if you're, training that puppy, you're setting them up in the future for a more resilient life. Or if you have a senior dog, and you're giving them treats, this is a way to contribute, small to large amounts of nutrients that contribute to the overall diet. So I think that these are really cool. Obviously, they're also wild caught. I haven't been looking at the questions, so obviously I'm going to go to questions after this little talk about salmon. So I will obviously do that. So please, if you have questions, before I go over the ingredient panel, if you have questions about anything to do with green juju, it does not have to do with, even if it doesn't have to do with salmon, it could be to do with anything. Please let me know, and I would be happy to address whatever you guys want, because that's why we're here. So, so the product itself is 85% salmon and 15% high antioxidant foods, including purple cabbage, including blueberries, and fenugreek. The other thing that is interesting to note in all of our treats is we actually use a non-GMO version of vitamin E. So me and Kelly have a running joke about how to pronounce this. Tocopherols, I'm going to go with her pronunciation of it. So these are basically mostly unheard of in the industry to find a non-GMO version of this, but Kelly had a story with her own dog in the first round of these treats, and her own dog not doing well with them until they could actually locate a non-GMO version of vitamin E, which is the preservative here in these freeze-dried treats. So that's kind of the extent we go to make sure that we're getting the proper nutrition, and that animals who are sensitive to things like GMOs are going to be, are going to thrive using these treats, but also just to avoid, GMOs in the first place. So check out our salmon treats. They're great to rotate with our other treats, or on their own, and can definitely contribute to kind of go back through what we were talking about. They can contribute, obviously, omega-3 fatty acids in a big way, vitamins and minerals, including all of those wonderful fat-soluble vitamins, trace amounts of vitamin K2, and especially vitamins A and D, which are, very, very important. Iodine and other minerals as well, and also that astaxanthin as well to reduce inflammation. And plus, let's just talk about the fact that your dog or your cat, and let's not forget cats, or my friends, the two crazy cat ladies, would, scold me. We cannot forget about cats. Let's just not forget, too, that they love the taste. That I got to tell you, my dog absolutely loves fish. It's probably his favorite thing. It's like right up here between fish and rabbit, but he absolutely loves fish. And so let's just not forget also that it's something that your dog or cat is probably going to love. And especially your cat. All of our treats are highly, highly palatable. But when it comes to our treats, I think salmon tends to be, at least from what I see in stores, tends to be the one that cat people are buying, but they're all going to be really, really good. And I do want to not graze over that point because I don't want it to be misunderstood. What I mean by salmon and other types of fish, like sardines and things like that, acting like organ meat, is because they're high in the same fat-soluble vitamins that we're looking for when we feed things like liver. And so that's where they fit into that same category. So it's not exactly the same thing. They're going to be higher in omega-3s and other things as well. But I think it's a good thing to point out as well. So let me get down. So let me know what your guys' questions are. And we'll go from there. We'll take a few questions, and we'll talk about maybe some events that are coming up. How are these put on here? Okay, cool. So hi to Jerry and Julia in Vermont. And Vermont, I actually love Vermont. We're going to take a trip up there this fall. So we are those people that come and invade your state when the leaves start to change. So Janet said bye to Maple. Hi to Terry in Australia. That's pretty cool. I wonder, let us know what time it is there. And I don't want to get your name wrong. Aline. It's a cool name, from Quebec, Canada. Lauren. So Erica says, salmon blue and bison broth was the raw food purchase I made for my dog with severe skin issues. We have both loved Green Juju since. So thankful she has led me down this raw fed and holistic wellness rabbit hole. Empty wallet, but full starts. But full hearts. Well, that's great. I would say that if you have an animal with skin issues, obviously, when you're talking, okay, there's a few things here. So number one of the best things for that is that astaxanthin I was talking about, in terms of it's actually sold for humans as a skin supplement specifically. So with the elasticity of the skin itself, but also you're adding that bison bone broth for collagen, which is going to be really helpful for that. And then for anyone that has skin issues, increasing those omega-3 fatty acids is going to be really, really important. So obviously the salmon is going to be awesome there. So that is really great to hear. Thanks for sharing that. We love to hear positive things about our products, so feel free to share those as well. So Janet says, do you have any advice, any nutrition advice that would help support anal gland support? My 13-year-old dog had an anal gland rupture. That is not good. Well, first of all, we'd highly recommend, number one, reaching out to a holistic vet. I don't know if you work with a holistic vet, but getting that type of integrative care is always very, very important, so we would highly recommend that. I find that playing with the amount of fiber can help. So if you're feeding our blends, be it our golden blend, Bailey's blend, or our greens blend, you can sort of play around with the amount that's going to work best for your dog. I find that to be the case. So you could start there, and also reach out to maybe whatever diet you're using, that kind of thing as well. So hi to Stefania at the Holistic Pet Center in Missoula, Montana. Hi to the whole staff there. I don't know exactly who's watching, but you guys have an awesome store out there in Montana. I would love to come and visit. And also, you have an awesome store in Pennsylvania, where I live. And I was just there not too long ago, but I would really like to make it out there. So Janine says, off topic. There is nothing that's off topic as long as it's green juju related. So keep that in mind, guys. You can ask whatever you want, because that's why we're here. Off topic, everything made it into Texas, and I've been buying it up, especially the broth. Yes, we are in Texas, so all of you watching in Texas and the surrounding states, we are available now. So tell your stores to order green juju and have it on the shelves, and also stores, you should have it on your shelves. I have 2 older dogs with gastric issues, and the other with severe heart and some kidney disease. They love the duck broth, but not so much the bison. Well, every dog has their favorite. The bison package, as it defrosted, had a small hole in the top, and I've been wondering if maybe the taste changed from the hole or if they just really like the duck. It sounds like they probably just really like the duck, which, I mean, there's worse things, I guess. So what I would do if I were you is do the duck, and then if you get them used to that, the texture, the taste, all that kind of stuff, and then you could introduce the bison later if you want to. Or you could do half and half, or whatever you want to do. But just doing the duck would be amazing as well. So something to think about when it comes to that. Also, so let's go over some events that are happening very, very soon. So the Healthy Dog Expo is happening in Albany on this weekend, on Saturday and Sunday. So I will be there speaking on Sunday about nutrition and diets in general. I'm speaking on Sunday morning right before Rodney Habib, so that should be very exciting. So if you're there, come and say hi. Green Juju will also have a booth there, so come and say hi. I'll just be hanging out all weekend, and I'm very excited to get out there and get back into being around people and talking. I love giving talks, and so I'm very excited to see all you guys, if anyone's going to be there. And then next week, let me get out the old calendar here. Next week, on the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th is Global, which is a pet expo for all you retailers. Obviously, if you're a retailer, you know what it is. If you're not a retailer, it's a pet expo for retailers to go about, to learn about new products and things like that. So I will be there. I will not be, Green Juju does not have a booth, but I will be walking around. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. So, sorry. Whenever I look at the calendar, I sort of lose my train of thought. So I will be there hanging out and taking meetings and saying hi to people. So if you're a retailer and you'd like to meet up, please just email us. You can email us at info@greenjuju.com, and we would be happy to set up a meeting. So I'd love to meet you guys, or if you're one of the many, many stores I know across the country, I'd love to just see you and hang out and chat. So if you're a retailer, let's hang out. So those are coming up very, very soon. Hello to Kathy. Kaylee says, show him to me. Let's see him. Okay, everybody wants to see Huckleberry. So I'm hoping that he doesn't undo my headphones, but we are going to get him up here for a second. Come here, buddy. Well, let me get back up into where I can actually see what's happening here. Come here, buddy. Huckleberry is, how old are you now? I feel like you're almost, he's 6 months old. He's a good boy. Hi, buddy. He's mastered the bell on the back door. He's very happy, and he loves his girl, which is Maple. And he's not very, he's a little squirmy right now, but what do you think, buddy, huh? So this is the family bulldog, as we call him. So he's a third generation raw fed dog, and he's doing absolutely wonderful. And you got a great disposition, right, buddy? Exactly. So there's Huckleberry. Let me know how cute he is in the comments, because I always enjoy that kind of thing. Who doesn't? We all have the cutest dog in the world, right? We all have the cutest cat in the world. So I was, especially for Kaylee. Oh, it looks like Jessica posted an article about anal gland issues. Thanks for doing that. Always good to get as much information as possible. Marilyn almost missed the live. Well, you didn't miss the live, so good on you. Kathy said, can any of the treats be a problem with a yeasty skin dog? That's a very good question. I would say no. All of our treats are very low carbohydrates, just like all of our stuff just in general. The highest carbohydrate thing that we have is our golden blend, which is 6% carbohydrates, so it's still going to be low in carbohydrates. So no, I mean, all of them, the bison is 96% heart and liver versus 4% plants. The other ones are 15% plants. All the plants we're using are low carbohydrate. They're not really going to contribute, sugar or starch in a way that would really affect that. So I think you can go crazy. Janet's dog loves Salmon Blue. Hi to Nate Estes. Yes, it has been a long time. Hopefully we can see each other soon. Kirsten says, oh, she recently started adding something. Well, let me know what it is. So hi to Tracy from Alberta, Canada. So Cindy says, any thoughts on making the bone broths available in larger sizes? With two 50-pound dogs, we go through each package very quickly. That's a great question. For any of you who have product suggestions, we always like to hear them. And so this is the type of thing that, I'm going to make a mental note of. And I always say I can't guarantee these things are going to happen, but what I can do is make a mental note of it, because we really want to know what you guys want and the sizes of things. So thank you for the suggestion. And, this is my little time to talk about the fact that we are working on new things, and we are having some new things that are coming out in May. So I'm able to tell you that. So I can't tell you anything about what they are, but we will have some stuff out in May, and it's going to be really cool. Here's the reason I'm excited about it, is because, I came to Green Juju to contribute what I could to Kelly's vision and what the amazing things that she had done in the industry before I got here. And I really feel like this first project that we started from zero on and together built these products is really our first one where, what I think I can bring to the table, with those products is contributing to Green Juju and the legacy that Kelly's already built. So I'm really, really excited for you guys to see those. I can't say anything about them, but they will be out in May. So we are very, very excited. We've been doing some really cool work. It's been really hands-on. I love getting into the mix and doing, R&D and creating those products. So I think you guys are going to be really, really happy with them. So Kristen says, I recently started adding Green Juju greens to my dog's diet. One of my dogs has had 3 aggressive melanomas removed. Is there a veggie blend that is recommended for cancer dogs? Well, the Just Greens was made with Kelly's cancer dog at the time in mind. So that's a good one, I think, to start with. But both of those, but all the blends, but especially the Just Greens and the Bailey's blend, are going to be very low in carbohydrates and very high in plant antioxidants, which is going to be, an important part of your dog's diet moving forward. So I would definitely do those two, but starting with the Just Greens is an amazing thing. So Janet says, no holistic vet locally. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I wish there was more, but it's getting better. Suki says, great to see you. Thoughts on chia seeds versus fish Which has stronger omegas? I think I know, but the interesting concept. Uh, Animals are hands down a much better source of omega-3s than plants. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself, but I read a food package that says that chia seeds or something like that has more omega fatty acids than salmon. Well, that may be true, but those are primarily ALA fatty acids, which are also found in animals, but they're ALA, which your body must then convert to EPA and DHA to be truly effective. It's sort of like protein from animals, which is a better, which has a more similar amino acid arrangement to yourself, because you're more like you're more like a animal, obviously, than a plant. So plants are going to have more omega-3s in some cases, but they're not the right type of omega-3s. They're the right type for certain things, but they're not going to give you, they're not going to be as beneficial as the EPA and DHA in animals. So just something to think about when you're buying that. So when you see, vegetable oil or something like that on the shelf and it says the omega-3 content, that is going to be a totally different thing. So if you're looking to increase the omega fatty acid content in your animal's diet, use animals and not animal sources. Like, for instance, salmon blue treats from Green Juju. So Tracy says, do you have any products in development? You probably just heard that we do, but I can't tell you anything about it. But you guys won't have to wait long because it's March. They'll be out in May. So that's exciting. So Lauren is very excited about the Healthy Dog Expo. She'll be there. That is awesome. Excited to meet you. I just assumed there that you wanted to meet me. So if you'd like to meet me, I'm excited. I'm a huge nerd, so. Thank you, Erica. I think he's adorable as well. Janet says he's a pretty big boy. I think his dad was like 30 pounds, so he could get to be bigger. And he's got that really great longer muzzle, and he's kind of my science experiment. I'm very excited because he spent the first 8 weeks of his life on a farm, and so he got all of that wonderful microflora and exposure, and has been completely raw fed his entire life, and I met him at 3 weeks old and did some nutritional stuff with him then. So we're just really psyched to have him as part of the family. Obviously, for us, we're still upset and we'll be upset forever about Lua, but Huckleberry has just been an amazing dog so far. So he is adorable and handsome. I am in the section. I agree. He is pretty perfect. So thank you guys for saying that. I really appreciate that. Janet appreciates. See, that's what I love is a lot of times on these Q&As, someone will have a question and I'll go over it, or maybe I won't have time to go over it. And then other people start answering and sharing links and that kind of stuff and talk about their own experience. And remember, your own experience has a lot of value. So, there's a reason you're here, and that reason is probably because, you had a dog go through a health issue that you couldn't clear up really any other way, and then you started to look into more holistic methods for diet and things like that, and you started to see measurable results in your own dog. So sharing that with people is really cool and special. So continue to do that, because that's awesome. You guys are great. So Erica says, finally got my Green Juju in Texas. Let us know where you're from in Texas and the store you bought it at, because we'd like to give them a shout out. We are so excited to try. I agree. Catherine says, are you going to make bone broths in a half gallon? Well, that's a great suggestion, because again, I don't know, but that is a good suggestion. And I know that Catherine has a very large dog who had a birthday recently, so happy birthday, Doug. And also and Doug's toy, her other dog, Gus. So great dogs. And hopefully, maybe in the future, they can have some larger sizes. We will see. So when will Green Juju products hit Canada and where? So we actually are in Canada in the western part. So I have this giant map behind me. So I believe we're in Manitoba. Yes, we're in Manitoba on west. So that would be Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. So we are in stores there. So contact your local store. Um, our distributor there is Ava Fina. So that's who your store would order from. But if you're in on the eastern side, on Ontario eastward, we are not there yet, but we are working on that. So, um, there's a million things to do at all times. So there's one of the things that is on our radar is to getting into Eastern Canada. So if you are a store and you're in Eastern Canada and you have a distributor that you really like, that you would like us to take a look at and contact, you can go ahead and email us at info@greenjuju.com. So we would love to be in Eastern Canada. So Janine says, tease, yes. But don't worry, you won't have to wait too long to know what those new products are. And we'll tell you. One thing I can tell you is, obviously when we do new products, we test them. So we send them to people and people use them, and we've had really great feedback on them. So that's exciting. So those people are the only people that know exactly what it is, I guess. So hi to Beth Greenaway. And Nicole, any news on Eastern Canada? I just kind of covered that, so hopefully soon there. Suki said, if I add the blends or treats and broth, would it help make a raw food complete? For example, feeding raw sardines, bison bone broth, sprouted seeds, and vegetables. Yes, all of the I guess the way that I build a diet, is to take, either a complete and balanced diet. So whatever that means. Like we need to really take a look at what that actually means, because we know that there are certain things that dogs need in certain amounts from what we know. I mean, the sad truth is we don't really know as much as we want to think. So if anyone told you a food is complete and balanced, that just means, a standard by which, let's say if you're going by AFCO or NRC or something like that, but there's many, many nutrients that aren't on that list that may be needed, and every dog is so different. So the way that I think you could do it, Suki, is to take a food you're comfortable with in complete and balanced, and whether that's a whole whatever diet that is, and then adding all of those things on top of that. So if you're talking about sardines and our bison bone broth and our veggie blends, these are all things that are going to add extra nutrients and antioxidants, and cover any areas where you might find some lack there, because no food company is perfect as well, in terms of what your animal eats on a daily basis. So that's what I do. I take foods that are complete foods, and then I add, Green Juju blends. I add bison and duck broth. I feed our treats. I add things I get locally, bee pollen and things like that. So I would definitely recommend doing that as well, because remember, folks, a food, every dog's nutrition is so different that a food can't, again, I just want to reiterate, no company could say this has everything in it your dog needs, because nobody really knows that. The science is not 100% clear on that. So cover your bases and add all of those wonderful nutrient-dense foods that Suki in Omaha, Nebraska is talking about. I had to throw in the Omaha, Nebraska remark there. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but AFCO was supposed to be in Omaha last year, but didn't happen because of COVID and whatnot. But I was excited to go to Omaha, but didn't happen. So Ashley says, how? So Beth says, is it overdoing it if I add bone broth with one of the Green Juju blends with meals? It is absolutely not overdoing it. So our blends are not broth heavy. So they're meant to be vegetable blends, because that's the whole point of it, right? Is to get all these vegetables in. But we then add coconut oil and bone broth to it, not only to get, obviously the joint nutrients, the collagen, but also for palatability and, with, helping blood sugar with the coconut oil and the healthy fats and the caprylic acid and the capric acid and the always present very healthy lauric acid as well, in there. So definitely not. I use the blends every day, and I also use bone broth in large amounts. It's really hard to overdo bone broth, both from a caloric stance. No dog or cat is going to become overweight drinking bone broth. So for our recommended dose, everyone listening to this, I don't care what diet you're feeding. I don't care if it's kibble on up to a complete and balanced raw diet. You should be adding our bone broth, either for a younger animal, do at least an ounce per 10 pounds of body weight. But if you have an older dog especially, but I just do it anyway because I think I like to get as much moisture into the diet as possible. Not only that, but vital nutrients that are suspended in moisture or in colloidal suspension. So I add 2 ounces per 10 pounds. So Huckleberry is currently getting about 4 ounces a day. And then I would encourage everyone to use our blends, because even if your food has, even if you're using a raw food that has some vegetables in it, your dog is going to benefit highly from extra vegetation. And it's very, very little in calories as well. So I would highly recommend doing that. That is exactly what I do. So no, it's really hard to overdo it with that. And that's what we're in the business of, is making every diet better. So we're in the business of, if you're feeding kibble and you're on a budget, we're not here to judge. We're here to make your diet better. So if you're a huge nutrition nerd like me and you want to figure out what the best possible thing is, we're also here for you. So that's what we're in the business of. So I would highly recommend, whatever diet you're doing, to go ahead and to do that. So Tracy Moran says they're already here about Canada. That's definitely somewhere in the western side of Canada there. Janet says he's a lucky dog. I think you're talking about Huckleberry. I hope so. He's definitely he is a very cuddly dog, which has been a change as well, because Lua was not that way. She was affectionate in her own way. So Lauren says, my husband and I asked if we were going to make signs and shirts saying Billy's #1. That would be hilarious. It wouldn't be the first time there was a shirt made, but that would be awesome. So that's exciting. That's excited to meet you guys over at the in Albany this weekend. There's going to be a lot of really cool pet people there. Shout out to Larry and Charlie at Podega, who came from Dubai. Excited to see you guys. Get to see a lot of my old and friends, and meet new friends as well. You're welcome, Suki, about the omega fatty acid content. A lot of the misinformation about things like this comes from marketing. It's the same marketing that says, your breakfast cereal has as much protein as an egg. Well, but they're not created equal in terms of, the quality of that protein. So omegas are exactly the same thing. So. So Tracy says, where are you? Readily available. Oh, I think you're talking to someone else. I was going to say, I'm actually at home. I was going to do this at the office, but as you can see, I had Maple in the beginning. So I am at home. But that wasn't your question, but I told you anyway. So Janine says she got hers from Healthy Pet in Austin. Oh, I was just there. I was actually just in Texas visiting stores, and then you guys had some crazy weather. Everything froze over, so I had to fly out before I made it up to Dallas and Fort Worth. But I will be in Dallas and Fort Worth at some point in the near future, and I will be down there for the Supreme. So if there's any retailers that use Supreme in Texas who are watching this, or the surrounding areas, I will be down there for their for the show in, I believe it's June. So if you need details on that, reach out to Supreme, who they've been doing awesome stuff for us in that area. Cole says, can a cat have your freeze-dried greens blend with nettles? They can. Obviously, cats, are different, being that they're obligate carnivores, and they're not going to take as much from plants as dogs or humans would, for that matter. But we have had some positive feedback for digestion with cats, especially. So um, you can definitely try it. It's all about what works for your specific cat or dog. I think that's the important thing here. Erica says, I live in Keller, Texas, and I got it from Earthwise Pet in South Lake, Texas. Awesome. So thank you, Earthwise Pet in South Lake, Texas. We are very excited to be there. We appreciate that. I did get a chance to get some Texas barbecue while I was there, which was very exciting as well. Terry says, I am using freeze-dried green juju. Is it comparable to your frozen? It is very comparable. So we actually do make that product in terms of we don't just get freeze-dried powders. We actually get the vegetables, grind it, juice it, mix the pulp back in like we do with our normal just greens. That does set us apart in the industry. We don't just grind up the veggie blends. We do actually juice them and then add the pulp back, so it further breaks it down and makes everything easier to assimilate. And then we freeze dry it. So, obviously with any preservation method, it's going to affect the food, slightly. But obviously freeze drying and freezing things just generally are the best way to be able to keep foods in their raw nutritional state, or freeze dried state, and still obviously be very high in nutrients. And also freeze drying in plants is a little bit different in that there are some, I'm thinking of a study that was specifically done on cranberries, which aren't in there, but it will kind of give you to a larger point, which they actually found that the nutrients were more well preserved in a lot of cases with like certain water soluble vitamins, things like vitamin C and things like that, than freezing over time or than frozen. So in some of those cases, it could actually be better. So something to think about there. Jen says, I've watched so much of you and Rodney on Facebook that I'm sure I'd recognize you anywhere. Well, that's very nice. I appreciate that you're not annoyed of me and or Rodney yet. Beth says, already got a friend hooked on your green juju for her 4 shepherds. She even tasted it. That's hilarious. Well, everything in that green juju is human grade, but we recommend feeding it to dogs. But that's awesome. That's a great thing that you did for your friend's dogs. So anything you can do, I'm sure you guys are really good at, telling your friends all about, holistic, great products. So we appreciate that. Janine says, but I did notice your website product finder wasn't updated because I was trying to find a place to purchase in Houston for a friend. So we don't have all of the information from the stores that so we get the information from the distributor and then we'll put that into our store locator, which I doubt that is up to date as of right now. But I will tell you that you can go to Fur Babies in Houston, check them out, and they have a very large selection of green juju. I know it's in I believe the northern suburbs, but that's one place I can think of offhand. Kaylee says, how do I get on the send new products list? I'm making a mental note as we speak right now. And I get to have dinner or hang out with your boss, and more than your boss, but with some of my favorite people from Columbia, Missouri next week. So I'm very excited about that. Aline says, I must have got your name right because you didn't correct me. Thanks for answering me, Billy. Can't wait till you get here. I agree. Suki says, thanks for the complete and balanced information. Been helping a customer and your products have helped them so much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's our whole goal, is to help as many dogs and cats as possible. So thanks for sharing that. So Catherine says per meal or per day. Per, I think maybe you're talking about when I said to add it to diets. I break it up between meals. So I just do whatever the recommended, with our products, you can do the recommended dosage on the carton, but you don't have to. You can do more than that. You can do slightly less than that. For me, I just eyeball it. I'm not saying I invented the plop method. That would be Kelly, but I did, get accustomed to it, and now I claim it as my own. So what that means is it's a large plop for large dog, a medium plop for medium dog, and a small plop, which means you take a spoon and plop it in the dish. So have at it. It's just whole food. You can't really go wrong with it, to be honest with you. So Tracy says, I've been wanting to tell you that my 5 Chihuahuas love all your Green Juju freeze-dried whole food bites. Every day we buy them in Annapolis, Maryland. Thank you so much for saying that. And I'm so glad all your dogs love them. Our treats are insanely palatable. So pick up some today. So Kelly says she's updating the store locator right now. So thank you, Kelly. We appreciate your hard work on a Tuesday night. So Nicole says, do you ship the frozen blends to Canadian stores or just the freeze-dried? Our frozen blends are in the stores that we're in Canada. So you can get our frozen blends. Oh, Kaylee, you are going to be at Global as well. That's amazing. Well, that is awesome. I will probably run into you like 400 times. So let's hang out and make that happen. All right, hang on. Looks like Bear also loves his freeze-dried. Kelly says, don't you dare claim the plop method. I agree. Well, with that, I think it's about time to go. We've been on here almost an hour. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys. I really, really enjoy all of these lives. I think it's really important that you guys can come on and there's a face, and a name, both me and Kelly. That is the entire company. It's just me and Kelly. So it's important that you guys have a face and you understand why we're making these products and that we're here to do the right thing and that, we're going to be here making cool products. So see you in Albany this weekend. See you next week at Global. And, we'll see you guys soon when it comes to our new products in May. So we're very excited. So we'll be back again. Let me just tell you when next month on April 19th, I will actually have had a birthday week before. I will be, unfortunately, 39 years old at that point. But on April 19th will be our next live. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully you learned something. Try our salmon treats, and you guys are awesome. Everybody have a good night.